Hello everyone, and welcome to Rainstorm Creates. Today, I will be making a doll in honor of Unus Annus. For the base, I will be using a G3 Clio. Her mummy wrappings are perfect for this project, and I like her body shape. Let's begin by prepping the doll. I start by taking my tiny orange scissors and cut off her hair. I tied it up beforehand so that I could save it for another project. Now, get a tall mug of your choosing, this one's my favorite, and fill the mug with boiling water, and give Clio a soak until her head is nice and soft. After a minute or so, carefully take her out of the boiling water to test how squishy the head has gotten. Once sufficiently squishy, wrap a towel around her head to protect from the heat and tug it off. These G3 heads are a little hard to remove, but just take your time and you'll get it off. Time to wipe off the factory face. Take some 100% acetone and pour a little on a cotton pad, then simply wipe the face off. I like to play a little game to see how much I can get off in one go. Haha, nice! Next, I take the time to sand off her molded on panties. I did this as a design choice, but this is not a necessary step for every doll project, and whether you do this or not, it's up to you. This took me about an hour to do, but now she's nice and smooth, and we are left with a clean and blank base doll. Let's talk about the design for this doll. I took a lot of inspiration for this doll from Etalon's Radium Girl and Enchantarium's Mori. Both of these stunning dolls had elements I wanted to emulate in my own doll. If you are interested in either one, I have left the links below in the description. With those inspirations in mind, I came up with this concept. Later, I added an eyebrows so that she had a bit more of an expression rather than a blank, staring off into space look. Let's begin making the doll. To start, a pretty drastic skin color change has to take place. That being, her body and head needed to be an almost black color. Using a very dark gray pan pastel, this was able to be achieved. I first saw this technique used on Delightful's Umbreon, and that link is also in the description. Essentially though, you use layers of chalk pastel and Mr. Super Clear, which is a matte sealant, to build up the color bit by bit. This takes some time to do, but works very well to achieve a full body color change that won't easily scratch off, even in the joints. And us doll makers know that those joints can be really tricky, especially with any sort of color changing as drastic as this. It goes through a few stages, and you have to make sure you're moving the joints around as you go, but eventually you get a nice solid skin color change. And of course this process is very messy, so the last step is to use a paintbrush, like a little broom, to clean it up. Now let's get to making the bones on her body. This process took a little while, but it was definitely worth it in the end. To make the bones, I used a white watercolor pencil to sketch out where the shapes should go. I tried to anchor my hands so that they are as steady as possible, and on top of that, any mistakes I make can be easily cleaned up with some water on a small, clean brush. The outlining process took a while to do, but it was worth doing as it was the foundation for the steps to come. I wanted to take the time to make sure each line looked how I wanted and was in its place. This took a lot of drawing, erasing, redrawing, and so on and so forth. I also ended up using a black pencil to outline places where I wanted the white pencil so that I made sure that each line was perfect. Once I was happy with how it looked, I sealed the doll body once again with Mr. Super Clear, or as I'll call it for the rest of the video, MSC. That's the whole back done. Let's move on to the front. As I'm drawing in these lines, I'm referencing the concept art. These bones aren't meant to be anatomically accurate, and I spent a lot of time stylizing them in 2D, so referencing the concept I made was super helpful to bring these to life in 3D. The next step is to fill in all of the bone outlines that were just made. Using an off-white, bone-like colored gesso, which is a water-based paint like watercolor, but has more of the quality of acrylic, and using a tiny brush, each one of those bone voids got filled in. As I was making this doll, one of the things I thought about was my time with Unus Annus. It was nice to think back on all the silly memories we got to make, and the friends that we made along the way, and the friends that we had back in that time. I can't believe it's been 3 years since they said goodbye. I happily remember how they made my life better, but also I think about how sad it was to say goodbye for the final time. It was a fascinating social experiment to see and to be a part of. I am sad that they're gone. I'm sad that I no longer get to watch the people solve the puzzles that the editor left in the videos. I'm sad I don't talk to some of the same people I did then. And most of all, I'm sad that I don't get to laugh at their jokes every single day anymore. At least, not in the same way. Though, as someone else who disappeared once sang, you're on your own from here, so are you happy? I'm satisfied that in the end they made something so impactful, even if it was only impactful for a few. It came at such a perfect time, too. But anyway, back into the doll for now. The final thing I painted was the tiny little hand bones. This took a lot of patience, but was rewarding. After painting the body bones, I seal the body one final time with MSC, and I take off the leg wrapping to the reveal, well, the leg wrappings. I then use dark acrylic paint to wet wash her mummified leg and arm. This wet paint will sink into the cracks of the sculpting and bring out the details. I then take a dry paper towel and wipe off any excess paint that's on the surface. After that, a quick dry brush of light color to bring out the details. I'm not very good at dry brushing. I've tried doing it a lot of ways, but I'm rather heavy-handed, so I find this rather challenging. I think maybe I need to think about how I do this a little better. It's finally time for the face-up. This is much the same process as for the body, though a little more detailed. I outline the bones in white and a little bit of black, then going in with some bone-colored gesso to fill everything in. I reference my design to the doll off camera the whole time, and along with that, anytime the color stops building, I give the face another coat of MSC. Memento mori, unus annus. The last words we ever heard from them as the clock hit 0 and the channel was deleted live for 4 million people to witness. Memento mori, if you aren't aware, is a Latin phrase that is a reminder of the inevitability of death. The phrase is not originally from Unus Annus, and actually has its origins in the times of the Romans, the Roman Empire, if you will. Maybe that's something you think about. Anyway, it has been seen throughout European history and is widely regarded as a reminder to live life to the fullest. A YOLO of ancient times, if you will. The phrase eventually found itself as a mantra of the Unus Annus YouTube channel. Its direct translation, "Remember, you must die," ringing through the heads of all those who were there at the end. I wanted to incorporate this phrase into my doll, somehow creating a memory, encapsulating an experience that maybe not all of you were there for. It was hard for me to say goodbye, and I know I wasn't the only one who felt that way. For me, making this doll feels like a form of closure, finally closing that chapter on my life. And a final reminder that all things must eventually come to an end. She ends up having a rather sad expression that reflects how I felt the moment they were gone, as I stared into the void of my then blank screen, where the live stream had once been. Maybe one day I'll come back and I'll make her again. Another version that better reflects the joy I feel now, knowing that they were there, and sentiment of memento mori. But right now I'm making this version. This longing, heartbroken version of her. And I think it works for what I'm going for with this particular 3-year anniversary. I am happy unusannus was there at that time. The channel was started in November of 2019, with the end goal always being to delete the channel on Friday the 13th of November the next year being 2020. The title of the channel, unusannus, or 1 year, ringing true, a video uploaded each day for 1 year, with a ticking timer that counted down the days as the year went by. Honestly, I've been talking about this channel as if it was some great thing, and in a way it was, but in other ways it was really silly. They sang songs they made up, they cooked with things that definitely were not meant for cooking, they reviewed things and made things. There are now so many moments that you can think back to, and most of them were memes, and very funny, and I think that's what made the whole channel work. It was funny, and consistently funny, in a time where there wasn't much to laugh about. And I think that's why it was so impactful when the channel had its final curtain. I wanted this doll to have an almost ethereal sheen to her, so using Pearl X and a brush, I added 2 layers of the micro glitter to her face and body bones. I added a layer of MSC in between each layer of the micro pigment. For her clothes, I wanted to be able to see the hard work that went into all of her bones, but still have her be in the iconic white and black unusannus suits. To achieve this vibe, I decided to make a chiffon white and black suit. The process was extremely arduous, and because of that, I chose not to film much of the process. However, here's a glimpse of the pattern that I made and the fabrics that I used. If you would like a better look at how to sew outfits with chiffon, I highly recommend checking out Dolly Mixtures. They do amazing things with that frustrating stuff, so I'll link their channel below. I used a lot of the tips that they've shared over the years. The main one being cutting out the chiffon with a soldering iron. It was actually really useful. The final step of this doll is the hair. The doll needed to have some sort of black and white hair to complete her look, and I wanted to leave it in a half up, half down style. Using yarn wefts in black and white, I glued them directly to the scalp. After that, I styled the hair, as you can see here. I use a myriad of tools, including a mini hair straightener, a metal butter knife that I heat using the mini hair straightener, a razor for cutting the hair, and much patience to tame the hair into place. I found that heat alone holds acrylic hair just fine, so I don't use any products. As I go, I tame sections of the hair into place using the heated butter knife. This just helps everything lay nice and flat against the scalp, so it doesn't look too puffy and unwieldy. And don't get me wrong here, I love a good poofy hairstyle, but that's not what I was going for this doll. I really wanted something sleek and, I don't know, kempt, I guess is the word that I'd use for it. You can probably see that weird shiny glue line in the middle of her head that goes horizontally. Yeah, I did that so that the hair that would be held back in the little half-up ponytail wouldn't get too thick. It looks better that way. I'm just using the knife here to smooth those wefts back so that they have a nice flat place. Then I tie everything back. Continuing to use my heated butter knife, I smooth everything into place, and using my tiny razor to trim little bits that don't look quite the right length. Using the razor really helps achieve a really nice haircut because it really thins out the ends so that they look like real hair almost. And with those final hairs in place, may I present Memento. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments, and leave a like while you're down there. I can't wait to read and respond to every single comment. As a reminder, I am a beginner doll artist, and would highly recommend checking out the more skilled artists that I've mentioned in this video for the specific techniques that I used if you would like to know more about them. If you want to see more of my work, like the 3 pretty dolls on screen, as those are the only 3 dolls that I've made, go check out my work over on Instagram. I post sneak peeks there sometimes. See you in the next storm. Memento mori. Unus. Annus.